Okay. Okay, I'm gonna call the Temple and Community Service District regular scheduled meeting of June 30th to order. And we'll call.
Director Sparganish,
Here.
Gardini is absent. Logan,
Here.
Pearson, here, and Peterson.
Here. Okay, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at the end of our June 6th meeting, we had a closed session. And at that time, the board directed General Manager Phelps to amend the budget of 2023-24 to include CPI and equity adjustments. Special reports. Manuela, you're up. Sheriff's Department.
Good evening, Michael Manueli, Commander, Sheriff's North Station. Tonight I have your report for May 2023. All told, the North Station received 1,720 calls for service. Compared to last year, we had 1,811 calls for service. That is a drop of about 5%. Templeton accounted for 378 calls for service. Compared to last year, we had 398, again, a drop of approximately 5%. For comparison, San Miguel had 202 calls for service. Breaking those calls for service down into actual reports, the station took 242 reports compared to last year, 261, a drop of about 7%. Templeton accounted for 90 reports. Last year, we had 70 here, which is an increase of about 29%. For comparison, San Miguel had 27 reports. Looking at a new figure that I decided to look at this year is the amount of reports generated from calls for service. Comparatively, the station generated 14% reports. Comparatively, Templeton 29% reports. Breaking those calls for service down into specific areas, assault and battery, there were 4 calls for service generating 5 reports. One of those calls had 2 associated reports. We had a juvenile assault hospital staff. We had a known subject push a victim down. We had possible shooting at a vehicle, which turned over to the California Highway Patrol, and domestic violence. Looking at disturbances, there were 21 calls for service generating 4 reports. You had a disturbance at the ER, you had a report of a roommate going crazy, breaking window, and then you had a combative subject at the hospital. Burglaries, there were 7 calls for service generating 6 reports. We had 3 burglaries from vehicles. We had forced entry into a house under construction, which suffered graffiti vandalism, and then we had fence cut to access a shop where tools and a computer were stolen. Thefts, there were 2 reports. 1 generated a report. 2 subjects entered the store and shoplifted alcoholic beverages. Vandalism, there was 1 call for service generating 1 report. You had a counter report at the station, and I don't have any additional details on that. 9 calls for service generated for trespassing. 2 reports. We had a subject located on property and he was escorted off the property by deputies. And then we had a subject in a vehicle that was refusing to leave a particular property. And he didn't leave when it was requested. Then we had a subject contacted by deputy and cited for drug paraphernalia. Phone scams, there were 2. We had a satellite TV phone scam requesting money to upgrade your system, obviously scams. And then we also had a doctor's office received a phone call and they tried to scam the doctor's office out their DEA number, which allows them to write narcotics and other prescription drugs Thankfully, the doctor's office did not fall for that, and there was no loss. Lastly, we had 16 calls for service regarding suspicious circumstances. 2 reports were generated. A report of a suspicious subject around the bus stop. Deputies responded, found a subject matching that description. They determined that items had been damaged. The glass panels to the bus stop had been broken and or removed. The subject ran from the deputies and ultimately was taken into custody and booked at the gym. That is my report for this meeting.
Are there any questions? Any questions from the public? Thank you for your report.
Right,
Appreciate it.
looking forward to the 4th of July.
Yeah,
Right.
those pancakes.
The pancakes and dinner, right?
It's a parade and fireworks for us.
Uh-oh, don't say fireworks. Wait a minute.
We get the noise complaint, they get the fires.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item is Fire Department Merit Awards. Pete Peterson.
All right, good evening, members of the board, and thank you. It's my privilege tonight to be able to present a couple of awards, but I want to go through this PowerPoint just to refresh your memory real quick. In March, we technically challenged. In March 3rd of this year, we had a medical aid call to Via Paseo, our apartment complex just north of the district here. And while the engine company was on the call, they came out of the medical aid or the lift assist that they were on. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about. On March 10th at approximately 8:30, engine 7195 was dispatched to a medical aid or a lift assist at 2808 Ramada Drive. After completing the lift assist, the crew exited the apartment and was advised that there was another upstairs apartment unit that was on fire. Captain Goldblum quickly assessed the situation and requested a multifamily fire dispatch at 2838 Ramada Drive, Unit 225. Captain Goldblum and firefighter Rodlin made access to the unit. It was filled with smoke. They yelled inside the unit to see if anybody would reply, and they heard a response. Instead of going back downstairs to get their turnouts and breathing apparatus, they entered the unit in a crouched position as to not breathe in the smoke and to stay out of the smoke, and located an elderly gentleman sitting on one side of a couch while the other side of the couch was involved in fire. They removed the elderly gentleman from the unit and carried him downstairs. In the meantime, Engineer Harris ran the entire length of the complex, retrieved engine 7195, repositioned it, and deployed hose lines. Captain Goldblum and firefighter Rodlin donned their turnouts and breathing apparatus, grabbed the hose lines that Engineer Harris had in place, and extinguished the fire. In my opinion, they placed themselves at a higher level of risk without their gear to save a life, and this is worthy of recognition. The crew from 7195 operated as a team that evening and saved a life while putting their lives at risk, and that's what we're here to recognize tonight. I will be presenting the crew with a unit commendation award, and this is kind of what they were dealing with that night. The left side of that couch had the gentleman sitting on it while the right side was involved in fire. And you can see the condition of the couch and the inhalation that he was dealing with.
And Tom, are those cigarette butts on the floor?
Yes, yeah, probably 200 to 300 of them. So you might ask, what is a unit commendation? Unit commendation is an award for crew performance in an outstanding manner worthy of recognition. It requires risk to the firefighter's life, exceptional performance in and out of an ordinary circumstance or type of call, and requires the crew to have worked together and honor the crew rather than the individual. So I would like to ask Captain Goldblum, Engineer Harris, and now Engineer Rodlin to join me to receive their unit commendations. These are 3 black stripes on a white field, and that's what the unit commendation looks like, and they'll wear these on their pocket flap. Absolutely. You guys like to say anything?
Spotlight's on me.
Oh.
I just like to thank everyone who was involved in making the 3-0 staffing for fire to happen. This wouldn't have happened, and there would have been very different circumstances if we did not have 3 people on that engine today, that day. Absolutely.
How about that? Could be more happy with the crew I had that night. You know, the men and women, this whole department do an outstanding job every day they come to work. And I can't echo what Engineer Harris said. Without having 3-0 would have been a different outcome in this situation.
Thank these guys were great, and especially Captain Goldblum, just kind of letting us do our own jobs at that point and trusting us to do what we thought was needed. And having 3-0 that night, like you said, that night I would have been going home at 8 o'clock, and that call came out at 8:30, whatever it was. So without 3 on that engine, it would have been a completely different outcome.
With that said, again, I'm very proud of this crew. They not only did the job well, they went above and beyond, risked their lives. And from what I perceived when I got on scene is everything was in place and done exactly like it should have been through the training and education that these guys have received. They did a fantastic job. They followed their training and they executed the rescue precisely. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Liver right here.
Harry always gets passed.
Good job.
That's-
You can sit up there, Tom.
I know, is it me again?
The next item on the agenda is the June 3rd and June 4th North County Recycling Fire Briefings.
It's turned on this time, so I'm good. Okay, thank you again, board. On June 3rd, at approximately 8:30, I don't know what it is about the 8:30 hour. The crew from 7195 was dispatched to the report of a smoke check at 3360 La Cruz. When they were en route, they saw a little more smoke than they thought they should be seeing. And what I have here is a rough idea of what people were looking at while they were en route. Now, this one is from the Tin City area, but this is exactly what the engine company would have seen en route to the fire. Again, like I said, that video is from Tin City area. At this point, Captain Goldblum, after seeing this, up the dispatch to a full commercial response. So that gives us 3 additional engines and a ladder truck. You can see the intensity and size of the fire from a distance there. When we got on scene, we deployed appropriately for this size of a structure. And I will do my best to try and show you what we did here. There's a pointer on this, right?
It's a little green dash.
That one? Okay. I didn't want to push something and make it go away. So right here, this is engine 7195, and it was the first engine on scene. And like I said, they experienced a pretty significant fire when they arrived on scene. They immediately deployed hose lines in 3 different locations. All of these piles that you see here, plus the side of the building, plus an excavator, were all involved in the fire. When the second engine arrived, which was engine 30, they laid in from a from a hydrant and supplied engine 7195 with water. The third engine in was truck 8141, and then 7591 was the Atascadero engine. And later I requested another engine, which was the state hospital 7995. This is-
Can you go back to that slide?
Sure.
Engine 30 was from whom?
That's CAL FIRE. That's
Cal
the-
Fire,
that's
and
the Paso State.
8141, is that Cal Fire?
That's Paso.
Paso, and
Paso
then
City.
7591.
7591, I'm sorry, I should have said that. That's a Atascadero.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
3,
those-
so 4 agencies total responded to
5.
5.
Yeah, because the Atascadero State Hospital is 7995.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
And I'll get into why I asked for them in a minute here. So through sheer luck, we were able to get some footage of the actual fire. A gentleman was driving by and had a drone, and he actually launched his drone from Ramada Drive. And this is what we were experiencing. We had already been fighting the fire probably about 5 minutes to 10 minutes at this point. But you can see the intensity of the fire and the hose lines that we have in play. The master stream off the top of the engine, what we call the deck gun. And then if you look close here, you can see the firefighters on hose lines. And there's 3 of them placed through here. And then we had another crew coming in through this side with another hose line. And we were trying to make access to a debris pile that was on fire inside the structure. Our command post was out front, in front of the building. We couldn't get the North County Recycling employees in there to help us with any type of debris removal for approximately 30 minutes or so until we got this fire significantly knocked down. What we needed to do at the point where we did get the fire knocked down was move a lot of debris, which was still smoldering. It had a lot of hot embers and a variety of hot spots within it that had to be broken apart. And total of water on this fire was 175,000 gallons. So when you think about the cooling quantity of water per gallon, it took us a long time to get this fire out.
So were there employees on site when the fire broke out?
No,
Okay.
I asked our dispatch center to contact the responsible for the building, and then he came down. He also, somebody did call him, not the owner and not the CEO, Ron, but Randy. He's the operations manager. And he was the first one to show up. As soon as he came up to my command post, which you can see that my my vehicle right here. He came up and I asked him to get as many people from his employees down there to help us in the extinguishment process and the debris removal. Because back in this corner back here, in the very back of the building, these doors are all open
Mhm.
and the fire did encroach inside the building. And so we were fighting fire. We actually had crews inside right in here fighting that fire inside the building also. The difficult part about this fire was the level of toxicity in the smoke because it's all trash and recycle. And every member had to be on breathing apparatus, even though it was an outside fire, during the entire duration of the fire. I mean, our air fill station couldn't have been, you know, installed at a better time,
Yeah.
because we went through every single bottle that we had. Now, we did have some issues with our engine on this fire. In a minute, you'll probably see our master stream go down. Excuse me. And then, yeah, so the master stream goes down and we did have a 2.5-inch valve fail. But it was a situation where when we took down the master stream, we still had larger hose lines deployed. And then we had another couple of hose lines that came off of engine 30 that had to be put in play. So that's kind of a good synopsis and vantage point that we were very fortunate to get. This gentleman just dropped off this flash drive for us with this video on it from the drone, and monitor remain anonymous. So
And no injuries.
no injuries. Yeah.
Do we know the cause of fire?
So it's very difficult on these types of fires to determine the cause because we had so many potential causes. We had, you know, lithium ion batteries that were deposited. We had dumpings of barbecue remains that were inside some of the loads. There were just a variety of chemicals. Sometimes that mix can create exothermic reactions and spontaneously combust. So I think I probably counted 4 or 5 different potential starts on this fire. So again, you can see what we were dealing with. And we were on this fire for approximately 5 hours. The next day, this is kind of what it looked like. And unfortunately, even though we put probably 100,000 gallons on it that night, we put another 75,000 gallons on it the next day because we had apparently an ember somewhere in that back part of that building that flared up when the wind blew and it reignited. So we were out there the next day for about 2 to 3 hours. The other problem we had with the engine was as we were flowing that deck gun, we not only had the valve fail, but we had a pretty significant issue with the roof. And this is just kind of what we dealt with when we got back to the station after flowing the water. And I think we really escaped a catastrophic failure with the engine on this one. But you'll see a pretty large quantity of water up in this headliner with all of this electrical coming down out of here. So that was dripping down on top of our, $5,000 radios, our MDC, which is about $4,000. Plus, that's all of our code 3 lighting and lighting on the back of the vehicle that operates some of our equipment that lowers and raises the ladder, a variety of different things in there. So that we did the best we could to use what is called Flex Seal to try and patch. Again, we don't know where the leak is coming from. We try and put water up there. We had other leaks in the compartments during our rainy season this year. So, you know, I'm just here informing the board that that engine is failing. It's failing rapidly. And that concludes the report on the Warren County Fire, and I will answer any questions you might have.
I'd like to say thank you. We're lucky to have you and your staff. So I think we have one of the better fire departments in the county. Thank you. Okay,
Public have, there's some people on the call, if they have questions.
would anybody, I see we have, one person on the, Zoom. Have any comments for the fire chief? Seeing none, does any of our public have any comments?
I believe we have an opportunity to get a engine though, don't we? Isn't that been on the,
We're looking at that.
okay,
It's proposed in the budget, at least part of it.
Okay, does any of the board members have any, would like to change the order of business?
No,
Okay, hearing none, members of the public may address the board on any items of interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, but not on the agenda today. So, does any of the public, have any comments to make before we go on to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. We move down to the consent agenda and we have. Did I count right? Seven
Seven.
items on the agenda. So does the board have any comments or would they like to remove any items for discussion?
Pull the legal services agreement.
Sorry,
Pull the legal services agreement.
any others?
Can we please pull item E, resolution 9?
Item E. Okay. Any other items?
nope.
Okay, hearing none, may I have a,
I'll make a motion that the board approves item A, the minutes of the regular board meeting held on June sixth of 2023. Item B, the minutes of the special meeting of the board held on June sixth, 2023. Item C, the treasurer's report. Item F, resolution number 10-2023. The community facility district assessment amount. And item G, resolution number 11-2023 of measure A.
I'll second that.
roll call?
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Pardonish,
9.
Gardini is absent, Pearson. Aye. And Peterson.
Yes. Okay, we'll go to item D, legal services agreement. Kaloo, I believe you.
Yeah, I just had a question out of curiosity. Under item number 3, section C, what's defined as unusual, extraordinary, or complicated matter?
Oh. Definition for that. Actually, I have not had a project that got billed under that category in the past 10 years with Carmel and Lacosta. They generally provide, I'm gonna say, more routine services for us. Agenda review, Brown Act compliance, fairly basic stuff. We've ended up using other law firms for more specialized work. So I don't think any of the things that I've used them for or I've requested their use for have been billed under that category. The agreements, other than the dollars and cents, it's essentially the same as the 2016 or 7, the current agreement that we're under.
So those terms are defined in a different agreement?
No, I don't actually, I'm not certain that they are defined. I want to say
I'm just curious as what those are, what's extraordinary in the world.
well, it's like an appearance in court.
I know. Is it like a certain type of appearance in court or not extraordinary?
Okay, So in the staff report, special legal services include defending or prosecuting actions in courts or before administrative agencies, representing the district officers before local, state, or federal courts, boards or commissions, or any unusual, extraordinary, or complicated matter where the district requests legal services. This
So
is
how,
the,
how are each of those, I guess, categories? What's the definition under each of those?
I don't
Because they're all kind of bleed together. I'm just curious. That's-
well, we don't have a lot of matters that go to court.
Well, I know, I understand that. I'm just saying, in this agreement, are those kind of defined?
They're not,
So how do we know? If something arises where it falls under our services agreement? If the language is not defined, because I mean, those can include a lot or very little, so what is actually meant by those?
well, it's the same language we have in the agreement today. This special services.
Right,
So I have a question. Is it our prerogative as to whether or not we use them
Yeah.
or we go elsewhere?
Yes. We have a choice. But typically it's in terms of what services we seek. We have a really long relationship with the firm, Parkwood, Connick, Shanahan, or BKS, that the district has like 3 decades of work with, but they're based out of Sacramento. It's not practical. So, and their billing rates are quite a bit higher. And so the simple stuff pretty much goes to Carmel and Nakasha. I mean, simple stuff, but the more routine matters,
Routine.
they maintain that with our attorneys, with their firm, pretty much just do municipal work. Like.
And they're more local.
who decides like what category it's billed under then? So if, say, they did a court appearance and they deemed it unusual, extraordinary, or complicated, but we see it as defending or prosecuting actions in all court administrative, how is that decided, I guess?
Well,
It's the same fee, so I'm just wondering,
How's it being
how is it
directed?
being directed?
Mine had always been my understanding that they don't do that on their own. They have to come to us before they do it.
yeah, I mean, they wouldn't just appear, but they'd have to hear our direction.
I know, what it is. I'm just asking.
I don't know. I don't have an
what-
answer.
what
What
is-
you,
The protocol.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
does the language mean? I'm just,
so the definition came, this
what
is,
is an
this,
unusual lawyerly service to them or to us? Do we understand what that actually means, or is it defined somewhere?
it's defined in the staff report, but not in the agreement.
Okay,
So it would be better if it were defined in the agreement. But I can't recall a circumstance when we've been billed for anything other than a standard rate. So, and they've been doing services for the district since maybe late 2012.
I'm more asking out of curiosity, because I haven't seen that kind of language before in a services agreement, so I'm just curious as what. There's always a catch-all, so I get it that it's more of a catch-all terminology, but I'm just wondering what complicated matters, that's kind of subjective, is what's complicated.
It is.
What's complicated to them could be simple to us and vice versa.
Sure, I mean, what's typically driven those decisions on my part anyway is, do they have experience in a certain matter? For example, I had to seek out some special counsel when we were developing our community facilities district, because the law firm that I initially had support from, Carmel Nakasha, really didn't have the breadth of that experience, and so we went somewhere else. It wasn't a money driven decision so much as someone capable and having that experience.
So essentially, we start with, we as in the district start with, we have this issue, which one of
Yeah,
our providers.
Right,
goes into.
exactly. And if like say, my main point of contact at Carmel Nakasha is David Hirsch, and if he says, hey, I don't know it, let me see if Tim, and then we'll just sort of brainstorm. And I've been offered like a special services through like a partner law firm that they would have, and I said, well, hold on, I don't want to get somebody new involved, let me see if someone I've already worked with has that experience. And we go that route. And then for labor matters, we typically use Labor Casting Whitmore for personnel work. What's a little unusual in this agreement with Carmel Nakasha, because by the way, the two of the law firms that we use primarily, we have an agreement with, but they just established the annual rate. Like BKS, you don't approve the rate adjustments. They just issue us the rates each year, and either we use them or not. You know, they're not a retainer, we don't have an existing agreement. This agreement called for a 1.5% cost, adjustment each year to the billing rates. And they approached me a couple months ago, and basically said, hey, we're gonna be prepared, we need to propose a new agreement. The costs of providing services have gone up faster than the billing rate, and that's why that's what was.
How
Requested.
frequently are these service agreements reviewed? Is it annual, biannual, or just?
I think
as
last time
per
was 6
need?
years, about 6 years ago.
Any other questions? Any questions? From the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to item C. Revisions to strategic
Oh, we
financial.
didn't-
You to approve.
No,
it.
Vote on that.
I'll have to approve item.
I move to
D
approve
and-
the legal service.
I'll second it.
Pearson,
Yes, aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Pardonish.
Aye.
Scarpini is absent and Logan.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll go to. C.
No, item E. Resolution. Revisions for strategic financial policy. in the
Oh,
consent
E, I'm
agenda.
sorry. I'm reading it as a C. Future goals.
That's why I'm here.
Okay,
Thank you. So on this item, I wanted to pull out and discuss this item. The reason for it being obviously is the allocation, for administrative allocation that's gonna happen for the fire department. It's gone up substantially, and that's a concern for me. At least, for this year was around $140,000, and we don't know what's gonna be like in future years. A few years ago, when we passed Measure A, at the time, we looked at the numbers. And even we knew with the passage of Measure A, still it was gonna be, the budget for fire department was gonna be tight. It was just gonna barely get us through with minimal amount of staffing. Fortunately, with help of chief and staff, we've had some donations, substantial donations from the community. We've had the big Safer grant that helped us get to the 3 staffing at each shift, which, we saw the results of it today from, we heard from our firefighters. So, so that being said, still the budget has always been tight, and have a concern with that. This change is gonna put a lot of pressure on the staff, on the chief, to try to come up with with the budget and trying to balance it. 3 years ago, we had the same issue with Parks and Rec. We were $250,000 in hole. I'm sure you guys recall that, and we sat here and like, what are we gonna do? But at that time, we all came together. And there was not any question about, oh, we're gonna cut services or anything like that. We sat down, our thought was, what can we do to get us, to get through it? And we did, we came up with some solutions in terms of cutting back on some asset replacement and things like that. And then at that time also, we came up with the idea of adding solid waste to the Parks and Rec budget. And that was substantial amount of money that went to the Parks and Rec. And it helped it get us through it. Even since 3 years ago, I believe, General Manager, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that amount that we had decided on 3 years ago is gone up by $60,000 per year.
The franchise fees?
Yes. Approximately.
Yeah, just in the last couple of years, from, I have that somewhat handy. So in 2 years, it's gone up. Actually from 174 to, budget of 174 to a budget of 237, so.
About 60.
Yeah, about a little more than 60, about 63,000 in the last.
So in just 2 years, that's been, and it's gonna, I'm assuming that number is gonna continue to increase. So,
Yeah, maybe not at the same rate it did. There were, you know, a number of factors in play, because the reason it went up so much is there were these high years of CPI, and they get, the rates go up automatically as they're tied to CPI. And then with the implementation of SB 1383, but yes, I expect it'll continue to grow.
so that's, you know, substantial amount of money that has been infused into the Parks and Rec budget. And as I said, just, you know, we didn't even anticipate it. In the last 2 years, it's been $60,000. So to me, I think it behooves us to sit down and look at the revenues that's coming in terms of the property taxes that we're getting. This is not about parks against fire department. In no way I am saying that we should reduce any quality of service that we are offering our community for parks. That is absolutely not my intention. My intention is that I believe because of this big, I mean, it's a huge change with the solid
So you
waste.
look at the allocation.
Yes, with the solid waste, it's a huge change, so we need to see and to me, it's rebalance things again. I mean, it's been many years since we've done this, and I think it's a good idea for us to sit down and think about it and rebalance it again. This is not a, you know, parks against fire department. To me, this is about us being responsible and taking a look at all our departments and making sure that they're all thriving. Again, this is not about anything to do with reducing any services, and I'm sure when we get together and discuss this, we could do it. And you know, I hate to see the fire department, you know, be hurting like 2 or 3 years down the road. We know that's coming, and then we all gonna be, you know, questioning ourselves. So I think it's something that we need to look at and just to look at the property tax reallocation. So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So
go
my
ahead.
recommendation is that to go to, you know, approve this item tonight, but to have the finance committee take a look at the property taxes, take a look at the fire budget, take a look at the parks budget, and see what is the best number that we could come up with to at least partially be able to just partially at least offset this item. You know, just to help the fire department somewhat, because as I said, there is quite a bit of inflow of money coming from solid waste.
And I don't disagree with you, because I see that what this policy does, what's before the board, is it really kind of creates a formula for how the administrative costs are charged back to each department, which was lacking previously. So, but what it does is it does put more on the fire department. And yes, it is going to fluctuate from year to year based on different expenses, but it created a formula, which I agree with the formula. And to your point about the tax allocation, similarly, I don't know that we have something that really says, here's the justification for how all those property taxes are being distributed across each department. It's just kind of one of these things, well, it's always been this way historically. But I don't know that we have a real justification. And to your point, you're right, that what we've done in the last couple of years is we did infuse the Park and Rec budget with that solid waste, which was a tremendous help. One of the other shortfalls that I think I recognize as well with Measure A is we capped the COLA adjustment and that, or the CPI adjustment. And we did it at, I think, 2 or 3%, 2%. And the problem with that is we kind of shot ourselves in the foot because we were really talking about Measure A was a 24/7 fire department, which means salary. It wasn't, you know, capital expenditures. It was just really salary, staffing. And that staffing is always going to be more than 2% because of healthcare cost and just, you know, cost of living adjustments. So don't know that we can fix that, but I think we do need to look at the allocation. I think I'm in supportive of this policy going forward that's before the board. But to your point, I agree. I think we need to look at that property tax allocation and say, is this the right distribution? I don't know that it's really going to offset some of these administrative costs, but I think we do need to have a similar policy that says, why are we allocating the way we are?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, actually, at least.
And to make it a little
partial,
more
yeah,
balanced.
yeah, a little partial.
Yeah.
I would also agree with that. Could we get?
Hold on, before we talk about agreeing on, but so I think that that's kind of a move in the right direction, but I think there's still kind of a bigger issue of the fire department's budget health in the long run, and I don't know that we should just be narrowly focused on the property tax allocation. They don't necessarily want to take funding from one department to another if it's ultimately not gonna be significant and we're still moving into the red. So long-term, does that get us out of the red for the fire department? And because however we put it, we are taking money from one department to fund the other department. Hold on one second, I want an opportunity to be heard as well. But so I just want not to just narrowly focus on just one revenue source, but are we exploring other revenue sources? Are we exploring maybe some out of the box thinking? I know that the budget workshop is not necessarily a fan favorite suggestion, but something along those lines. Can we task our finance committee to start exploring? Are there grants that we're not touching? Are there fundraising opportunities? Are there, what other type of funding do we have instead of putting this pressure of kind of bouncing the ball and Band-Aid fixing with, because I don't really think that the property tax reallocation is going to solve the bigger problem, because we're gonna have this problem in 4 to 5 years. These are significant numbers that we're dealing with.
No,
And before we make a move to reallocate something that will take money away from another department, and I know it's healthy now, I know that the Park and Rec's budget looks healthy now, but it didn't historically. And what's to say, you know, we're gonna keep moving into the green, everything, there's so many factors here. So, you know, I think there needs to be a bigger budget strategy in regards to the health of the fire department, and maybe trying to preserve as much for the Parks and Rec as we can at the same time.
And my it's not so much take from Peter to pay Paul, but we have a policy here that says how the formula works and why it works the way it does. We don't have anything for or for the tax revenue allocation. It's just, this is the way it's always been. And I have a problem with that. I think there's got to be some methodology that says why we're allocating funds the way we're allocating them.
I mean, so what I would like to do at this point, I guess, from, you know, to make a motion to approve the resolution, but make it, but as part of the motion, make a recommendation for this strategic, property tax allocation to go to the finance committee and come back with a recommendation, but at least to be able to partially offset the offset this cost of the change that we are making with the administrative allocation. And we could, you know, and committee could have 3 or 4 months, you know, help to make that recommendation. So that would be my motion.
I mean, I would also like to add what Khalid was asking about. And if we're gonna do it, we might as well do the whole thing, because it's gonna go to the finance committee and then it's gotta come back to the board anyway for all discussion. So I'd be, if you wanted to add that to your motion, I'd be.
I'm not sure what that means, though. Can you clarify?
Clarify, to me, it means that we look at everything. Don't just look at the allocation, we look at any possibilities of.
Increasing revenue for.
Increasing of revenue for fire.
Okay,
I also think that some of that should go to the fire committee also.
Mhm.
I mean, not just the finance
Yeah.
committee. And then when both committee,
Well, I would say that this portion of it, the finance portion of it, the property tax should go probably to the finance committee, but increasing the revenue for fire department, that would go to the fire department.
Kind of gonna be a blended effort, though. I don't know that you can.
Yeah.
you can
Well, I
totally
think,
blend.
the finance committee I see is needing a policy to say how the allocation should take place and why it's being done the way it's being done. I think it's up to the fire committee to look at, are there opportunities for increasing revenue? And what those could possibly be.
Fire departments could do that.
Yeah.
Fire departments could do that, so I think it'd be best to just try to focus for the finance committee on that.
Yeah.
Just to, just come back with a recommendation of what we could do with the property tax.
Are you comfortable with that, Kalud?
To change the motion so that it gets pushed to both committees, is that what we're?
Well, it's, what I'm suggesting is that the finance committee look at the allocation. And any change to that allocation would have to come back to this committee. But I think we need a policy similar to the policy that's before the board tonight for that allocation. So at least there's some rhyme or reason as to why we allocate that tax revenue the way we do. As far as increasing revenue to the, and exploring other opportunities for increasing revenue for the fire department is taking that to the fire committee.
I just kind of see both committees playing that role in kind of essentially strategic planning for the future of the fire department's budget. And I don't know that all should fall on just the fire department committee, because I would assume that the finance committee needs some input or oversight on that as well.
Well, finance committee to make policies with
Policies.
finance and things like that, the strategic planning for fire department and in terms of what you want to see your fire department to look like 5 or 10 years from now, or, goes to the fire committee.
Well, not the fire department, looks like the fire department's budget and financials were kind
Well,
of
that's
narrow.
That's the
yeah,
fire
yeah,
committee.
Yeah, that's fire. So I guess I still keep my motion as was. So for the finance committee to take a look at specifically the property tax allocation. And then come back with recommendation to try to at least partially offset this cost.
As well as advising the fire committee to review.
As well as advising fire committee to review for other source of revenue.
I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we have a roll call, please.
Director Spartanish,
Aye.
Logan,
Aye.
Giardini is absent, Pearson,
Aye.
and Peterson.
Yes. Now to our business items. The first item is resolution number 12, 2023 weed abatement, and this is to be is it public?
The public hearing.
Public hearing? Okay, then I will open the public hearing and.
Chief Peterson has give a short report.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I didn't want to see you get up and down.
Got the brace on, it's working. So yeah, we went out last month and conducted our parcel inspections. And had sorry, Carrie, you'll have to tell me, 160 lots. And then went back out this last week and found 8 lots out of compliance. Those lots are still out of compliance as of today. I drove by all of them. I did receive a couple of phone calls about lots that were not affected by the ones that we're proposing to be abated by the contractor. But right now we're looking at 8 total lots that are to be abated by the weed abatement contractor.
Well, the purpose of this public hearing is to give an opportunity for those property owners to essentially protest or make a claim as to why those abatement is not required on those lots.
And so the 8 that are on the list are still, as of today, still not compliant.
Correct.
And have any of them responded? So,
Most of them are vacant properties.
okay,
When will you start the process?
We will put together, our work orders for the contractor within the next couple days.
Okay, well, we have no public here. We have one person on the Zoom. Are there any comments or? People want to protest? I see none. Okay.
we made the contact. Have we sent certified letters to the property owners?
No, well, there are letters that go to the tax assessor's known address. And those are all sent out. Every year we've done this the same way.
Regular mail?
regularly.
And is there, how many notices are given?
One.
One?
Yeah. Oh, how many notices?
Yeah, so I mean, do they get a first notice and if they don't respond, we send them another notice?
Well, everybody gets a notice through the utility bill system that weed abatement's required starting May 1st.
Yeah,
So through some public education, that's not saying your property is in violation, it's just a reminder of the code requirements. What if upon the first inspection in May, they're out of compliance, those lots are tallied, they come before you, and the board approved a resolution at your first meeting in May.
That was 160 lots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
160 lots out of compliance, then we sent letters to all of them, of the 160.
so that was the
100
second notice
But it's the first notice addressed to them,
specifically.
very
But they
specific.
got it in the utility.
They got a
first,
reminder to
And then
do
they
it.
got the second
Yes.
one saying you're not in compliance.
What the code requires is that the property is mailed or the property is posted, one or the other.
And what I do also do, the properties that have structures on them or homes on them, I do leave a door hanger
Okay,
that identifies that they are still out of compliance and the weed abatement contractor is imminent.
yeah, okay. Okay. I'm just wondering why somebody doesn't respond.
Well, it's not we don't ask for a response, we ask for them to abate it.
Yeah.
The
But I
letter
mean,
says,
if they still have not abated as of today, then it's really,
it's also possible if you're a remote property owner, you might have abated in April. And or early, maybe in May, right after the notices went out or about when the notices went out. And since then, we've had regrowth.
I've only got one property like that. The other 7 have not been touched. And I can tell you from, 17 years, 16 years prior to this, doing about 3,800 lots, noticing and cutting somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 every year, that some people just don't want to deal with it, and they would just prefer to pay the added and have the community or, the district take care of it. They don't look at the actual
they don't want to
cost.
be done, deal with it.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, if I could get a motion.
I'll make a motion that the board approve resolution number 12-2023 of weed abatement.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Slowden,
Aye.
Ardonish.
Aye.
Gardini is absent, Pearson. Aye. And Peterson.
Yes. Next item of business B, resolution number 13-2023, adoption of the 2023-24 fiscal year budget and appropriations limit.
Thank you very much. We spent a couple hours on the budget topic at your last, at the workshop 2 weeks ago. We now have a complete document. You reviewed all the line item detail and some other components. So we now have a complete document. I'll just walk you through, note some of the changes or additions that are in here briefly. So here is the budget. no changes to this first section, the mission statement, of course, and service area map, have not changed. We now have a transmittal letter that was not available, for you, a couple weeks ago. There are some, graphics in here that I just want to call your attention. We've kind of modified the way the information's, presented. So this just shows operating funds at a glance across all the funds of the district. You know, you could say we've got major funds like water, wastewater, admin, fire, and parks and recreation, and then 3 minor funds, drainage, CFD, and streetlights that all have much smaller balances, much smaller revenues, much smaller expenses. You can see by comparing the red chart, the red bar, the green bar across all these, that all the major funds are balanced. We did spend a little bit of time talking about how drainage is a little bit upside down. You can't see that on the bar because they're so small, but on the numbers. We've also broken down just expenses, so you can see where they're spread within the district in this pie graph. And then additionally, there's another one just showing salary and benefits, human resource costs. You can see our fire fund is our largest expense area for salaries and benefits, followed by administration, water, wastewater, and parks and rec. So I wanted to illustrate those items. There are a couple of other things that are new that are pretty important in the budget document. We had the summary of fund balance. This version's updated. It was the updated page was placed in your packet. You're following this online. This budget posted to the agenda has all the corrected pages inserted. This changed a little bit because you might recall that in Parks and Recreation, we had a couple of matters that weren't yet buttoned up on June 6th, and so there's a few minor adjustments to Parks and Recreation that's reflected on that sheet. The wage schedule, this was not part of your earlier draft. This wage schedule has been modified for the full-time sheet to include as directed a 3.3% cost of living adjustment, and then equity adjustments of 2.5 and 5% to 8 classifications, and those are discussed in more detail in the staff report. If you'd like to review those, or feel free to answer any question or ask me any questions if you'd like. I would also want to put out, we did kind of one thing a little differently here. In the past, we've only listed employees who were full-time or received full-time employee benefits in a prorated manner under this position classification. Just to be more transparent, make it more clear, we have also shown any part-time positions that are attached to this wage schedule on here. They're not changes in practice, they're just reflected here. For example, we have a recreation coordinator, full-time recreation coordinator, we have a part-time recreation coordinator. They're both attached to this wage schedule, so it's now shown as 1.5 instead of just 1. The 0.5 person does not receive full-time employee benefits. Same thing with the maintenance worker. This 1.6 is one full-time person and about 60% of another person. Again, not really a change in practice, but a change in just illustrating those folks. The wage schedule for part-time employees has changed quite a bit, not the dollars and cents, but PERS, we had for all of these fire positions and for Parks and Rec, a reference of minimum wage to, and listed the wage, the top wage for that classification. And PERS won't allow us to have a wage schedule that has references. They want the pay to be listed on the wage schedule. It's not a law, it's just part of our contract with PERS, and PERS is kind of a heavy hitter, so we want to make sure this is fully compliant. Let's see, this is the property tax distribution. You spoke about that earlier. Administrative allocation, also a topic that was on your agenda earlier. It's reflected here and was. I think I've covered all the major changes to the budget. We have included now that wasn't available a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, years. It's been a long couple of weeks. In all the funds now, you'll see a department summary, a text of 1 to 2 pages for all the funds that describe the activity of the fund. There is a description of what the department does. That doesn't change very much from year to year. A revenue forecast for the current year, a description of recommended expenditures, and a long range outlook or forecast. So that is now included for all of the funds. That kind of more or less summarizes the budget itself. Also, attached to your staff report are a couple of items that you're asked to consider tonight. The first is the resolution 13-2023. It would adopt the budget, it would adopt the GAN limit. It would implement or it would adopt or implement the 3.3% cost of living adjustment effective July 1st, as well as the 2.5 and 5% equity adjustments for 8 classifications. That does affect about 40% or a little more than 40% of our employees. And then also there's an attachment to the resolution, the salary and wage table. This is a tool that's used to populate the wage schedule, but it's not actually a part of our budget, so we've attached it to the resolution. This is where you'll see the impacts of that 3.3% cost of living adjustment. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any more questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing done? None?
I'll make I'll propose a motion that the board approve resolution number 13-2023. The adoption of the 23-24 fiscal year budget and appropriations limits.
Second. Roll call.
Directors Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bardonish.
Aye.
Gardini is absent, and Pearson.
Aye.
Okay. Approves 4-0. The next item is item C, the amendment to the general manager's employment agreement. As you all know, we discussed this in closed session and we made the decision that the general manager should approve their cost of living and equity adjustments in line with all of the other employees. So that's basically what this item is about. We had our legal counsel write us an agreement or a contract with the general manager, which is attached. Any questions? Any questions from the public? Okay, can I get a motion for this, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment number 5 to the general manager's employment agreement.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call.
Directors Bardonish.
Aye.
Logan,
Aye.
Gardini is absent, Pearson,
Aye.
and Peterson.
Yes. Okay, the next item, D, Special District Risk Management Authority, SDRMA Board of Directors election.
Really straightforward here. This is an opportunity to elect folks to the board. The persons interested have candidate statements. You may, the board may select up to 3 of these candidates and authorize the cast of the ballot. Staff does not have a recommendation as to which of these candidates you should appoint.
Want to just run through a vote for each one of these?
Sure,
See if we can.
or all. How many are there?
There's 4, but we're limited to 3.
Okay.
You're also not required to vote for 3, but up to 3.
Bob Swan, Swan is the first one.
So do you want to go through this, just each one and see? if
Yeah,
we
I think
get-
if we go through each one and then just, we can take a vote, yay or nay, and then do our up to 3. And then maybe I have 3 picked out, but it might be faster if we just go each one.
I think it'll be slower, but, okay, go ahead. Who wants to,
I'm in favor of Bob Swan.
I'm in favor of Bob.
How's it? All 3 of you are in favor, okay.
Yeah, we've got up to 3 people. There's 4 candidates and we have up to 3 to choose from.
Do we want to discuss the candidates or are we just gonna say yea or nay for.
No, I mean, I think we've all read their bios. Unless there's some specific comments that you have, about the candidates.
I'm just curious if any of you actually know any of these people or have experience working or nothing.
I know nothing about any of.
Okay,
Okay, so,
I'll say yes too.
all right. And the next candidate, Aquanetta Warren, I believe is how you. Okay, anyway.
I'm in favor of that individual.
We gotta look at some of that.
Can I ask, what are you basing your selection on? Like, what stood out? I'm just
Well,
kind of
I'm looking at their bio, their application here. This individual has, I think, a good explanation as to what their overall vision of the SDMRA is. They've got some background experience in working in a public agency as a mayor of the city of Fontana. And they've also worked with Labco. So those were kind of the things that jumped out for me. Of the four, the only one that I think is the bottom of the list is Jesse Claypool. Because the application was a little limiting, sparse. Yeah. So that of the other three, I would support them.
I guess I would agree with that. I mean, this is kind of
That's what I was.
crazy to me. I mean,
I agree with that.
It's like voting for judges on the ballot, you know, it's like, oh, you have no bio on the judge. You don't know what the prior rulings are, you just have a name.
Right.
the thing I always look.
But I always look for, what do they write, you know, how articulate are they, and that tells me how passionate they are about the role that they want to serve.
And I always look for somebody that's local. I don't say that they are locals.
No,
Anyway, okay. You got the three. You got.
well, do we have?
Yeah, all right. You're gonna make-
Okay, so I'll make a motion that the
First time somebody
board,
went, you guys use this criteria to fit it.
yeah, I'll make a motion that the board put forth Swan, Warren, and Rattleson as the three candidates for the Special District Risk Management Authority Board of Directors election.
I'll second.
Director Logan,
Aye.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bardonish.
Aye.
Gardini is absent and Pearson.
Aye.
Before you move on from that topic, and maybe this applies to the other one. There's always an opportunity for one of you or a representative from this agency to be not to nominate, to be nominated.
Yeah.
We need to remind you of that. I don't put those on the agenda unless somebody shows some interest. But I will continue to send that opportunity out when it comes available.
Okay, forgot, is there any public comment on that? Okay, moving right along. Another wonderful election here, Special Districts Authority, Board of Directors election, and this is one for one only. So. Anybody want to put somebody out there and? I mean, just based on the application, I figured that Vincent Ferranti was probably the best of the three. But
I would agree with that.
I could vote for Ronald Stassi, but definitely not the other one,
Yeah, that's my feelings as well.
so,
You said Vince, right?
pardon me,
You said Vince, that was your recommendation, you thought?
the first guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I think
Okay,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
all right.
make a motion.
Is there a, any public comments on this one? If not, okay. I'll move that we recommend or vote for Vincent Parati for the California Special District Authority Board of Directors.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Directors Peterson,
Aye. Yeah.
Bardonish,
Aye.
Gardini is absent, Logan
Aye.
and Pearson.
Aye.
Okay. General Manager.
Just a couple of items that I wanted to update you on, just, on the Mid-State's request to assign the franchise to, USA Waste of California or Waste Management. It's a waste management subsidiary. We've been making some progress on that. We have collected a deposit for our expenses from Mid-State for processing that assignment request. We've been working with the county. The county had decided early on that they wanted to hire a consultant to do to prepare a report that would contain all the information that's required to be evaluated under the franchise agreement. And then in addition to the franchise agreement, I'm thinking of the county agreement, the county code also addresses assignments of franchises. In general, the county's requirements are a bit more burdensome than ours, but all of our requirements can be fulfilled within the counties, but not vice versa, if that makes any sense. Anyways, the county had decided early on they were going to hire a consultant to do that work. But Mladen, county division head for solid waste, and I met with Mid-State, and he kind of explained the process they were going to take. Mid-State's not thrilled about this, how long it's going to take, but it's clear, and Mid-State's clarified that the sale of the company from Mid-State to Waste Management is contingent upon both TCSD and the County of San Luis Obispo approving the assignment. One, us approving it next week really wouldn't help with the sale of the company. So rather than us do a ton of work and digging in and preparing a report, I've decided to kind of utilize the county's consultant as well. The county's gonna collect a bigger deposit from Mid-State. I've already, I participated yesterday in a pre-proposal meeting where we met the consultants that are interested in bidding on this. And they asked some questions about why we're going through this and what we wanted to know, et cetera. And then once that is done, we will review that material. Expect to bring it before the Parks, Recreation and Refuse Committee, and then ultimately to the Board of Directors for a decision and determination. There may also be, we'll have some other costs. We've had some legal expenses and reviewing some of this already, and there'll maybe more than likely be a transfer agreement with, if it's approved with Waste Management to recognize any particulars. I'm not expecting any issues to arise. I have not seen any cause for concern, but the county did want to be pretty thorough. They expect that their process will take about 3 months. The proposals are due June 29th, and they expect to have a consultant selected by about July 13th. So that's
What's actually required? I mean, is this just basically allowing Brad to sell to these people, or are we really looking at a new contract or?
There's a provision in the agreement that does permit him to sell based on the district's approval of who he's, it's not referred to as a sale, but who he's assigning the franchise to. So the assignment of the franchise does not trigger different rates or something of that nature, but there is an obligation for the district to determine whether or not you permit the franchise. There's a provision in the agreement that says you will not unreasonably withhold such approval of the assignee. But there are various factors that the agreement states you will review to ensure that the new company taking over can provide the quality of service that you are getting from Mid-State Solid Waste. And they have the substantial financial backing so they can survive things like a catastrophic event. They can continue to provide service, et cetera.
So can we indicate, because we haven't had the experience with this company, that we do not want to do the 10 year rolling?
If,
Would that be-
yeah, you'd have to stop, you'd have to cancel the agreement or negotiate a revision with that. I do think there will, yeah, I do. I can,
I guess I would like to see the refuge committee look at that and bring it back to the board, because I think that's a ridiculous agreement to have a 15-year rolling contract. If you cancel it today, it doesn't cancel for 15 years.
but yeah.
That's ridiculous. I wouldn't give that to my mother.
So that's what I thought.
Yeah,
I love my mother.
I I'll continue to make that point clear. I think, I attempted on several occasions to work with Midstate over the years to try to revise that agreement. They expressed that, value of that provision.
So, well, I
Well,
guess
it's just
so.
to them, but I mean, if you've got a new owner and somebody else coming in. So it seems like that contract should be null and void, and now it's a new contract. But I'm
Especially,
kind of curious as to why the county's involved,
Oh,
because if,
because the county holds a franchise agreement with Midstate as well.
oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're about the Midstate, so just Midstate actually has a number of private contracts, but as far as franchises, where they provide service like to state prison and other private, like Midstate provide service to Camp Roberts, for example, but that's not under a franchise agreement, it's just a direct service arrangement. Those have already been, as I was told, those have already been all okay to transition. The county has an agreement very similar to ours for rural North County, so really from Templeton south, including Santa Margarita, and they actually represent about the same number of customers in Templeton as they do outside Templeton. So the county's franchise is also with Midstate. It has a similar assignment provision.
Okay.
do you know if they have the 10 year rolling?
They do not.
We're special.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
seriously,
Brad is a
this-
really good guy. He's done a whole lot of work, good stuff for the community.
Yeah,
He
And
does.
his argument has always been, well, for him, they have to go out and buy one of those big trucks and a lot of money that they need that time to pay off the truck. But then I think there's a way that you could make some kind of agreement to help with that. But I mean, the fact that, you know, why even have an agreement to cancel if it's gonna be 15 years, you know, before it happens?
and
Yeah,
so
it's-
this is a new company that we don't have experience with, and if.
But it's a good selling point to the new company.
Well, and this is a national company and they probably got loads of money anyway, so, you know, they don't. Anyway,
So, yeah, I expect that will come before
yeah, I would like to put that on the agenda for
Yeah, it's fine.
the refuge.
And then just one other item, just a reminder, I will be gone starting next Thursday for about 2 weeks. So the 29th through July 14th. With maybe more limited availability than I'm used to.
You're used to it.
I mean, I think I'll be available daily during some parts each day, but maybe not all the time.
Yeah, and if anybody cares, I'll be out of commission for 2 weeks, so.
Hey, they're dropping like flies.
I know. Okay, what do we?
I'm not going to not planning on visiting a hospital. Surgery.
Yeah, I'll
You're
trade,
doing
Yeah.
I'll trade you.
What is speaking?
I definitely will trade you. Okay, are you through?
I'm through.
Any comments from the board? Any public comment? Okay, moving right along, there are one committee report, I believe, the Water Resource Advisory Committee. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none. We have committee reports, or no, we have activity update reports, I'm sorry, from the Engineering Department, Finance Department, Fire and Emergency Services, and Utilities.
I have a question regarding fire. I know a few months ago, the county was renegotiating their contract with the ambulance company. For whom we receive a first responders fee back. Has that contract been finalized?
It has been extended, from my understanding, for another year.
Extended at the current existing reimbursement?
Yes, I believe
So we're not expecting any increase.
Not at this time.
And I know you and I talked previously about first responders because I did a little research in other counties in the state. And were you able to determine if the first responder fee we could not charge because we have this ambulance agreement?
That is correct. I asked other
Okay,
county chiefs and
So we're-
they've had legal counsel look at that. And we cannot have two independent first responder fees,
okay.
from my understanding. I mean, we could.
So
have-
we couldn't do it for the out of area folks, because I think that's what the first responder fee. What I was looking at is for those people who come and visit, end up in a car accident.
Yeah, so the first responder fee from the ambulance is not, it's not specified by, in
Residency.
districts or
Residents
residents or
versus
anything
visitors,
like that.
it's just all
Correct. It's all encompassing.
Okay.
And therefore we get the benefit of that.
Okay. Well, that's too bad that there's no rate increase on that. Considering that costs have gone up, is there a reason why they delayed it? Or extended
Well,
it?
there's other things that they're looking at. And I'm not sure what the negotiations are with the county and the ambulance company. But if the board's familiar with and wants to look at it, the Santa Barbara just took over the ambulance contract from a private vendor. And the fire departments will be soon, I guess, responding all ambulances and collecting that fee. And then from my understanding, and don't quote me on this, but they will be disseminating the profits to
Fire
various
departments.
fire departments.
Do you think that San Luis Obispo is looking at a similar model?
At this point, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, are there any directors who would like to give a report or anything they've done since the last meeting? Okay, just a reminder that July 4th is the next board meeting and that's been canceled, so I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.